This is genius.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
I've never seen so many mullets in my life.
No, it's just about feeling good.
You had more chins than a Chinese phone book for a while.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. I mean, he said, Goonies never say die. We're going.
We got this.
All right.
I was pulling the trigger, but the safety was on.
I just Randy Black Eagle.
That's it. Boom.
That's my.
That's how we roll. Just drop the mic and walk away.
Put that right up real tight into the whiskers, and you got some serious whiskers.
I know. You're going to mess them up.
This is your chance to, throw a compadre under the bus.
Okay.
Because you shot better than him. Stuff like that.
I'm the one that lost 4 arrows on the first 4 targets in the longbow.
Well, I think that's a perfect thing to bring up right there. It makes you highly relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we need to be unified as a voice, right? And I think the NGOs are getting that. I think there was a time when hunting and fishing conservation groups were battling amongst themselves for political stances and funding and dollars, and I've seen that starting to turn where everybody understands that
we're all in this together.
We need to work together because there truly are anti-hunting and fishing groups that want to stop hunting and fishing, and we need to be well aware of that.
So I got to get Gritty Bowmen on this list.
Yeah, we do, and it's a stamp of this business does contribute 1% of their sales back to conservation groups and gives back 21 hours on volunteer time, and then boom, you can be a member of 2%.
Boom.
So, yeah, I'd love to see the Gritty Bowmen on board.
Sweet.
Again, another quote from Jordan Mountain Ops. He said, "You got to have a good swag game, man."
That's right. You got to make conservation cool again.
That's right.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. I'm here with Jeff Sposito in Montana. We're in Bozeman at the Sitka. What do you call this? Headquarters?
World headquarters?
World headquarters. I like that. Like not just headquarters. No. World.
This is it. Global, man.
That's right. And we were just talking about how fun the Total Archery Challenge was. So I came up here to hang out there and shoot bows, and it was at Big Sky Resort here in Montana. Is it Big Sky? Is it a city? Is it a resort? What is it, a mountain?
It's definitely a resort, but it's a town. I don't think it's a unincorporated town. Big Sky? They call it Big Sky?
I guess it's ambitious calling it a city.
Yeah. But there's Big Sky is also the name of the mountain and the resort, and then there's also Moonlight Basin is another resort in Big Sky, the town as well. So
it was awesome, and actually the rooms were pretty affordable with the discount. Although I should have brought more food because I think it was like the hot dog was like $10. No, that's an exaggeration, but not by much, dude. The food there was not cheap.
It's definitely a resort town.
Yeah,
but it's a fun place to bring the kids. You had your kids with you. I don't know if they did any stuff around there. There's zip lines and trampolines and all sorts of touristy stuff to do.
Totally. We brought the 3 kids. My kids, I don't get them out much, so they're easy to please. So they were asking.
Green grass, yay!
Well, a little more than that, but no, we got on the ride, the lift.
Oh, cool!
And that blew their minds.
Yeah, I took my kids. We just lapped it, which the whole lift experience, not with skis on or in the snow, was interesting to me. Just
isn't it creepy?
Walking on it and then walking off of it, or looping it and riding it downhill is all kind of weird.
I thought it was what was weird about that though was the feeling like if you dropped, you could die. Whereas
you don't have that when there's snow.
Snow, I feel like there's snow.
Probably survive.
It's soft.
Yeah. No, I thought riding the lift was a little odd in the summertime, but my kids loved it too.
So, are you a big skier?
We do. I snowboard. Both my daughters, my wife ski. I've been contemplating getting the skis back out and learning again. Just with kids, it's easier, but yeah, we in the wintertime, we're lucky here in Bozeman. Bridger Bowl is our local ski resort. It's only 15 miles from where we're sitting today.
Oh, wow.
So we try to ski just about every weekend in the wintertime, at least one day during the weekend. It's a good pastime in the wintertime up here.
And you guys have great snow.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
You really do.
No, we're fortunate. And Bridger Bowl's pretty famous for backcountry terrain, and it's not a big resort. It's a locals kind of type feel.
Yeah.
So we're pretty lucky. It's definitely a fun place to go ski.
How'd you shoot? Be honest. I already know how it went. You told me earlier.
Yes. I did not shoot. The first half of my shooting was rough.
Yeah.
The second half of my course I got better, but I shot with my longbow on Saturday.
Who'd you shoot with?
Who did I shoot my longbow with? My wife, and she shot really well, which was awesome. She showed me up. I should have brought my compound when I shot with her.
I shot with my wife too.
How'd that go?
She was shooting my bow because we haven't got one for her just yet, but she's totally excited about it. My daughter's had a bow for a while. She's a really good shot.
Nice. Did she shoot this weekend?
Yep. She's
Sweet.
she's 13, and she did great.
Nice.
And then my other two daughters also shot, and after about 3 targets, they were complaining.
They're ready to go.
This is so far. It's so hot.
And you only have 22 more targets to go.
Yeah, seriously. And then they got burnt, like crisp, about halfway through. So we bailed off the mountain, and then that night they were in their underwear on their beds, like with a fan blowing on them. They were all.
Well, they had a similar experience as me as well. So no, I shot pretty good with my compound. It was interesting because I just put a new string on my compound on Monday.
Oh wow.
Which isn't advised 4 days before you go do a total archery challenge.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But it went all right. And then with my longbow, I hadn't been shooting it much this summer, and I lost 4 arrows in the first 4 targets, and I wasn't feeling very confident for the other 20 targets left. But I got my together and.
Dude, it's a tough.
Right.
That you did the locals.
The locals course, yeah.
That was not easy.
No, there was the
string.
Well, the
that
first target.
That first shot is an arrow. It's an arrow graveyard.
Dude, so I went on Sunday with 2 other Tradbo guys, and the first shot off the lift is, as you saw, just the thickest timber ever, and you have like one little shooting lane through it. All 3 of us just ping-ponged our arrows off of trees, and it was a joke.
Yeah, it was a tough, really tough. The locals was tough. The other thing with that, I think, is they make you think it's easier because they're all shorter distances than the other ones. But here's the catch. I swear they're 2 or 3 times smaller targets.
They were little
so
targets.
It's like it's all equals out in the end.
They were little targets, yeah, because on the prime
your
course,
kill
they
zone
had
was like the size of my fist.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many turkey targets can you like put in a single
they had
course?
a frog down in the creek.
I mean, they had like a little fox and a little bird. I'm like, gosh, this is not the distances. It's just equalized.
Yeah, well,
because you had an elk at like 80 yards. I'm like, I can hit that.
Yeah, on the prime course, they had a moose at 105 yards,
right.
which I hit. I walked up to the moose, and it's taller than I am. It was the biggest target I've ever seen.
Then you go to the locals, and it's deceiving. It's only 30 yards, but the target's the size of a basketball with a kill zone the size of a golf ball.
That was tough. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, though. We had a blast. I also got burnt like a lobster, like your daughters did.
Yeah.
And the worst part was I was wearing my hat backwards the whole first day, like a snapback hat, and I took it off at the end, and my wife was like, holy shit, what happened to your head? And I had a nice little half-circle sunburn on my forehead.
Nice.
So that'll take a while to go away.
Tell me about, we're going to talk about 2% for conservation a little bit today. And for people who don't know who you are, we should probably get into that. I've had you on the podcast before. You were on the podcast with Randy Newberg when we were at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Annual Rendezvous, and we talked about 2%, and it was a little bit before you actually launched.
Yep.
And so here we are circling back, and we're going to learn a little more about it again. And you work for Sitka and have been for
7 years.
7 years.
Yep.
So been here a while, and you were here before you were with them before you moved to Montana.
Yeah,
I
started working at Sitka when we were still based in Northern California, which is where I was born and raised. And and luckily we moved the business to Bozeman, I think in 2011.
Yeah,
not 100% sure, but that's pretty close.
So so we'll get into a little bit of that, but before we do that, I still had some questions about recurve. Are you shooting a recurve or a longbow?
Longbow. And
what bow is it?
It's a Carbon Nano by Alaska Bow Hunting Supply.
Carbon Nano.
Yeah, it's made by Win & Win, which
how'd you get?
I want to say they're
turned
a
on to
Korean
those guys?
company or something. I've been shooting Alaska Bow Hunting Supply broadheads for a long time. They've been around for quite a while. They have the Grizzly Stick is the arrow they make. That's pretty well known.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out with their own bow that's manufactured by Win & Win maybe 4 years ago or so. And it's pretty sexy. It's a carbon fiber bow.
Yeah.
Which traditional guys are like, dude, that's not a traditional.
Dude, you're a sellout.
I know. That's
It's
what
like
I
that
get.
Hoyt Buffalo.
Yeah.
You're not really part of the tribe.
That's right.
You're just your bow has no soul.
But my good friend, long story short, my good friend that also works here at Sitka, David Brinker, who's a diehard traditional guy through and through, doesn't go both ways like I do with a compound and a trad bow. He has always shot blacktail bow, so I shot a blacktail recurve for a long time. And they are the traditional boner's bow, just beautiful, gorgeous, handmade recurves. So that's what I really started hunting with. But then when Alaska Boning Supply came out with the Carbon Nano, it was pretty sweet. And once I started shooting it, I haven't gone back since. So it shoots it's fast, hard, smooth. It's nice. And I could shoot I shoot the Grizzly stick, so it's a full carbon arrow also with a 315 grain broadhead. So it's a heavy arrow setup. It's like 700 grains all set, and it just works well for me.
And you look like you have a long draw length, too.
30 inches probably, 29.5, 30 inches.
How's the trad life treating you?
I've missed way more animals than I've ever hit. But I love shooting it, man. It's fun.
Who's better, you or Brinker?
Oh, gosh. I'd like to say I'm better, but he's killed than I have with it. Nah, he's a pretty good shot. Brinker's, But I think a lot of trad life is dedication and sticking with it, and he's better at that than I am. So that takes you a long ways. Because my routine, and I'm embarrassed to say this for trad life guys because they're really going to disown me now with a carbon bow and this, but I'll start the hunting season with my longbow, like pretty optimistic.
Right.
And by, after passing it up a couple bulls at, 40 to 50 or missing something, then I just hang it up and I start hunting my compound. Yeah. That's kind of my life cycle.
Hey, man.
Trad hunting.
No judgment here. I like to fill my freezer. I like to get an animal on the ground. There's a very rewarding part of the hunt is actually putting that meat in the pack and hauling it out. That to me is the epitome of the experience, eating the meat when I get home. And there's especially when you're poking out to longer ranges. Yep. In open country. There's a lot of shots I've taken back in Oregon where, if I hunt with it, or Prince of Wales Island, right? There's such short distances.
Yeah, if you're going to get a shot, it's going to be close anyway, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's a lot less of a sacrifice to carry around, I think, a recurve, right?
It's true.
But you come out here, out west, and you're up here where we were and where you're in some of these mountains, and you get 50-yard shots all day long. Yeah. Most guys are far more accurate with a compound at 50 yards than a trad bow.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, no, it's...
I still want to offend some of those trad guys who are really good at 50 yards, the 1% of them that are.
There's a few out there. No, but the cool thing about shooting the trad bow is when you do have success and you do connect, it feels even that much more rewarding. You're like, holy I finally got it done.
Say. That's what they say. But, man, I'm telling you, man, I don't know. I think Fred Bear, he has this quote, and I've seen it going around. I've heard it many times, and he said, the reward of how does it go? Like hunting with a bow and the struggle of it, something like to that effect, is more rewarding than hunting with the sureness of a gun. Something like that. But basically, he was just saying bow hunting's better than rifle hunting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's kind of when you boil it down, that's kind of what he was saying. Yeah, and I was like, well, I love bow hunting. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of bow hunters underestimate how fun gun hunting is.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. And I'm not a diehard one way or the other. I'm no hesitation to pick up a rifle. Yeah. But to that point, I got to follow up my breath with my good friend Brinker saying he's hardcore trad. Last year, he shot a stone sheep with a rifle, a mountain lion with a slug gun. I don't know. I think he shot everything with a rifle, not a trad bow. So I'm like, dude, you should just get a compound. That's at least better than a rifle. But he's not on board yet. So.
Yeah. No, we people are odd people. Odd, we all have our thing. But no, I think it's all hunting. I'm all on board, all of it.
Yep.
I do look forward to. I've had a blast. I was shooting the trad bow all weekend.
Did you lose any arrows?
I just shot the kids' course.
Did you lose any arrows on the kids' course?
So I hit the dirt a lot, but I didn't.
No broken arrows?
None broke, and it was all good.
That's nice when the kids' course in the dirt, not the rocks.
Yeah, no, I did. I had a good time. I had more fun on the kids' course than I did the main deal.
Yeah, no, I shot it a couple times. Did you shoot the flying discs with your trad bow?
No, I didn't see those.
That's the funnest thing I've ever seen. I need to
Really?
get one of those at my house. They have giant.
Did you get like a flu arrow or something?
Yeah, they had a whole bucket full of flues with these rubber tips on them, and they have what looks just like a trap thrower, but it's a giant trap thrower.
Really?
It shows these it flies these I don't know. I want to say 1 foot.
Did you hit
across
some?
disc. No, I missed them all. But
still
it
had a
was
blast.
so much fun. Breaker and I went up there with our bows, and he was just flipping discs up in the air, and you got to lead them and pull back and shoot them pretty quick, and it was probably one of the most fun things I've ever done with a bow.
Huh.
And I never hit one. And now I need to figure out how to get one of those at my house to shoot off my deck.
Well, it's cool because you can reuse it and it doesn't cost the same as like shotgun ammo and stuff.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
So, how is 2% for conservation treating you in terms of your free time?
It is taking up a lot of my free time. It is
because you work for Sitka. You've launched and you are running 2% for conservation.
Yep,
that's a huge undertaking. And I can just imagine like trying to do two at once, plus kids and family and hunting and.
Yep. Well, I've been fortunate that I'm not doing any of it by myself. I've had lots of help from friends, my wife, from a bunch of people at 2%, but it is definitely, my nights and weekends to come home from work, and cook dinner, put the kids to bed, and then it's time to crush out some stuff on 2%. So it's the free time sacrifice. I'm a little nervous about hunting season.
Yeah.
Because my email response time on 2% stuff might go down a little bit.
Right.
But it's rewarding.
How are you?
And it's fun. But
I mean, how good a response are you getting? I mean, compared to what you were hoping for or what you expected to what you are getting, tell me where you're at.
It's been great. So last time we did a podcast, I believe it was the first week in April. I don't know. Quote me on that. It was somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere.
And we had just launched our website, and we were just kind of guessing, what we're trying to set some goals for the year, and we were hoping to get a dozen business members. And we said I think we said 100 like individual certifications, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah.
But we're at 150 individual certifications now and 6 business members, and we're 3 months in. So I'm happy with. I'm pretty stoked with how it's going so far, and everybody I've talked to has embraced it and been pumped and thinks that it's a good model and wants to help. So it's been sweet. It's been energizing.
That is awesome. I was going to ask some questions about 2%, and I'm on your website. I got my laptop here in front of me for those that are listening, and the website is actually fishandwildlife.org.
That's right.
So if you try to type in 2% for conservation.org, you're not going to get there. It's fishandwildlife.org.
Slightly confusing.
It's actually
that's a story in itself.
Right.
Because I don't know how much you do with websites, but I kind of like the domain name game of buying some good domain names and seeing if they're worth anything. And I was pretty pumped on that one. That was just I was GoDaddying just a whole bunch of random domain names, and fishandwildlife.org popped up. And
I remember you were like,
shit.
nah, I'm not going to get that. And then your buddy's like, what are you, retarded?
Yeah, I did. That's exactly what happened. I saw one late one night on my computer, 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, it's $80 or something, and I'm used to like $6 for domain names.
Yeah.
But.
So on the website, the landing page, it's very cool. Good job on the website.
Thank you.
The 2% for conservation loop. Can you tell people about that, kind of how 2% works, and give them a kind of an overview of what it is you're talking about?
Sure. Yeah. So the loop is kind of a diagram that we put together. You can see on the website that hopefully explains how consumers can have power to give back to conservation. And really what we're trying to do is convince businesses to give back 1% of sales and 1% of time to conservation causes. So that puts the power in your hands as a consumer. If you buy from companies who are committed to doing that, that means 1% of every purchase you make, they're obligated to give back to conservation. So it's a loop in that the more you're going to buy stuff anyway, for your hunting gear.
Right.
If you're buying from companies who are committed to giving back, then it's going to raise more money hunting and fishing conservation, which is only going to impact all of us in the long run. So that's at the highest level how the model works. It's kind of similar to like an excise tax, like the Pittman-Robertson,
Yep.
So if you buy a gun now or ammo or a bow, it's roughly 11% of that purchase goes to state and federal wildlife agencies. And this is more of what I would call a privatized model of that. So where that goes to state and federal wildlife agencies, the government allocates it. The businesses don't necessarily, they have to pay it. They don't know where it goes. They don't have a say in where it goes and how it works. This is similar in that the business is giving back 1%, but they have the power then to say, I want to give it to backcountry hunters and anglers, and I want to sponsor this, or I want to give it to National Archery's in School program. And there's more control, and it goes to NGOs rather than to the government. So that's kind of the easiest way I found to kind of draw a parallel to how we already fund conservation currently.
And when you say NGO?
Nonprofits. NGO stands for non-governmental organization. So that's RMEF, Ducks Unlimited. That's any 501c3 nonprofit organization. Yep. Okay. It's not ran by the government.
And so you have one thing I thought was very cool about 2% was not just the dollars. There's two things that I really like about this whole concept. One is, it's not just dollars. You're talking about 1% in dollars, but also 1% in time.
Yep.
And can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, definitely. So through this whole kind of discovery process of trying to figure out this model and learn about conservation and how we can make an impact, I had a couple conversations that were about funding that diverged to, well, we need volunteers arguably as bad, more bad than we need funding for conservation work, right? Conservation work, when you truly look at the definition of conservation, it's not about, you can't just write a check to the animals or to the habitat, right? You need people to get their hands dirty and do the work.
Yeah.
And volunteers are huge for that. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think RMEF says they have over 10,000 volunteers that help from their projects to their banquet programs to everything they do with fundraising. That's a ton of people, and that's a ton of effort. So, and it really hit us when we started talking about, okay, how can we make the biggest impact on conservation possible? And one, we have to help conservation groups raise money, and that's the 1% of sales, but we need to help them actually execute their mission work, and we need people to do that. So it's 1% of time, and we based that off of 2,080 work hours in the year, roughly 40 hours a week.
Yep.
52 weeks a year. And that's roughly 21 hours, right, if you average it out. So that's how we define 1% of time. And the message is, if you truly are committed to conservation, you can commit, 21 hours of your life to volunteering, getting your hands dirty, helping execute on that mission work. Whether it's teaching a kid how to shoot a bow, doing a river cleanup project, putting in watering holes or stuff like that. Whatever it is, it's whatever you want. But do more than just write the check. Go out and get involved, and that's really what that's about.
So you're encouraging both. And tell me about the response. You launched it not too long ago. You told me a little bit earlier, like what companies so far. I mean, I'd like to know as a consumer.
Yep.
Which ones have jumped on board and are part of this program? Because those are the ones I want to support.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's, you bring up a good point. So a lot of the response that I've gotten from people that I've heard the podcast we did before has been exactly what you just said. Who gives back? I want to know. And you'll notice on our website, we don't have a business directory yet. That's coming soon. As we sign up businesses, my response to those people initially is like, well, we don't have any business members yet because we just launched.
We are due.
Help us get some because we want to tell you. But now we do have a handful that have come on since April. Sitka Gear, as I work here, I've convinced the team here, and they're behind it, and they believe in it. I'm really stoked on the guys at First Light. They do a ton for conservation, and they have stepped up, and they love the model and the idea and concept, so they're there. There's a group of guys, Casey with Hushin in Salt Lake City. They have a YouTube channel.
Casey Levier and Eric Chester.
Yeah, and they were up here for the archery shoot this weekend as well. And they've embraced the idea too. And they're
BMAC.
Yep. There's a small backpack company in Bozeman called Stone Glacier that's on board. There's the guys at Mountain Ops, can't forget them. I'm really excited about them coming on. They've done such a good job with their brand and getting the word out there. and they're doing some cool things, not just with conservation, but some of their other programs. I think they call it Feed the Hungry, give a meal back or something.
Yep.
So their mindset is
to give back,
really parallel in line with what we're trying to do. So I'm excited about that. There's a company called Huntera. They make they're in the Midwest, and they make these really high-end custom maps for whitetail hunters, landowner maps. They're on board.
Very cool.
So there's a handful of people, and the response has been great. But what we want to tell you, to answer your question, what we want to do is we want to leverage this platform so not only can consumers know who gives back, what companies give back, but who they give back to, right?
Yeah.
So part of our model is we have to certify what the business is doing, who they're giving their money to for conservation.
Yeah.
So we want to go a step beyond and be like, First Light's not only are they giving back 1% of sales to conservation, these are all the groups they work with.
Yeah.
So it's really transparent about,
donating
as a
time and
consumer,
stuff.
who you know where it's going to go.
Yeah. You have Pint.
Oh, Pint Pass.
Pint Pass?
Yeah.
I've never.
My friend
Tell me
Ryan.
that.
Yeah, just post. So Pint Pass is a good buddy of mine here in Bozeman. His name's Ryan. He's an entrepreneur by the definition of it. And he started a mobile app called Pint Pass that aggregates like all the microbreweries. They're in Montana now.
Oh,
so
wow.
you have the app and you can see all the microbreweries in Montana, where they are, and then what beers they have on tap. But then there's a little loyalty part of it. If you're a member for $20 a year, you get a discount on your first pint. But the coolest thing they just launched is they call it Tab, Text a Beer. So have you ever seen like ski resort stuff? They have the buddy board where it's chalk and you could buy your buddy a beer and they'll write his name on there. And then when he comes in, he has a beer prepaid. Oh. So they pretty much digitized the buddy board, so you can, through the app, pre-purchase a beer, text it to your buddy, and then he could just go in with his app to the brewery and just have a free beer on you.
That's cool.
So, but he's
so creative.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But he's a hunter and fisherman, conservationist, and as soon as you hear about 2%,
it's not just for hunting companies. It's anybody.
Anybody
wants to give back to conservation.
Yep. So we've had we got some inquiries and some businesses that we're working with that are totally non-endemic businesses. We've got a pest control company that has emailed me. Got a financial planning business. Got a whole bunch of different ones. So it doesn't have to be a hunting and fishing company. Obviously, those are the most direct connection. Mm-hmm. But if you own a furniture store, right, and you love hunting and fishing, and you're going to give back, then you should give back 1% of sales, and you could be a part of the network as well. So
yeah. If you're doing it because, well, to me, if this is the sort of thing that I want to do anyway.
Yep.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
I want to give back. I want to donate my money and my time because I believe in conservation, right? So let's say I'm a company and that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it because I want the sticker.
Sure.
But it is a bonus.
Sure.
Hopefully over time, because I think consumers have tremendous power.
Yeah.
They have a voice with their checkbook.
I think consumers have more power than they realize.
I do too. So if they're looking to buy products, and if the word can get out on 2%, and you have that list or a sticker on a product where you go, yep, these guys are part of this group, it starts to have some power. Because as I've been more involved in the hunting industry over the past year, I see companies that are very involved in conservation and some that are just completely absent.
Yep.
Like they're there to make a buck and then that's it.
Yep.
And as a consumer, I think it's powerful knowledge to know who's engaged and who isn't.
Yep. And that's the name of the game. That's what we want to accomplish. But let's be real in that those companies that maybe aren't giving back, I'm perfectly okay with shaming them to do it. Like most, right. I mean, that's how we're going to get incremental dollars, and it's only going to benefit us, right? So I think most companies are doing it because it's the right thing to do anyway.
Yep.
And that gives me faith in our industry and the people involved, and a lot of people are doing it already, and they deserve recognition for that.
Yeah.
But if through that model we can convince other companies to do it just because, even if they don't believe it, just because they want it, then that's fine.
Anytime it's funny. Like anytime I remember, doing some fundraiser stuff and asking people to donate. It's kind of funny. I don't care what their motives were for the donation. Right in the beginning, it's like I don't care why you give. just do it.
Yeah.
Right? It could be because for the most shallow reasons on the planet Earth.
That's right.
I don't care. At the end, those dollars help X, Y, Z happen, right? But I have this kind of altruistic, desire to have people like transform and become better, right? So it's like in the beginning, I'm all good with that reason, like this shallow, care, like pointless reason for like why they do it. But eventually, I want them to grow this like deep conscience and go, man, that felt good. I want to do this more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And grow it to that next level.
No, I agree, and hopefully people come around and see that.
Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
And so until you give, you don't know how good it feels.
Yeah. No,
right.
yeah.
You don't know what kind of benefits come from it until you kind of get engaged. So why you do it in the beginning, I don't care. But eventually, I hope it strikes a chord, and I hope it becomes, instead of 2% for conservation, it's 10% and so forth. It gets bigger.
Yeah, and I think we're not necessarily how our model is really going to be successful. Like just certifying the companies that already are meeting the minimum criteria and give them back 1% at a time, 1% of sales. Yep. That's given transparency to the consumer, which is the benefit there. But it's not necessarily helping conservation groups make a bigger impact on their mission work because there's not incremental dollars or incremental volunteers coming in from our model. So the real end game is that businesses that aren't giving back 1% do see that value and do recognize it. They see a company like Mountain Ops like, wow, people are really they're really growing their business because they have this conservation ethic and people really value it. And they're coming to the table saying, I want to be involved. Yep. What do I need to do? And we say, well, you need to give back 1% of sales. That's when incremental dollars are going to go to conservation.
Right, because what you're doing right now is you're just documenting the companies who are already doing it.
That's kind of step one.
So it's like you didn't change the donations.
No.
You didn't change the actual money that's flowing to wildlife.
No.
All you did was just provide the consumer with the information.
That's right.
So down the road,
more people will be involved.
Yeah.
So the goal is, if
you're shaming all the rest of the industry.
Pretty much. And if you read our mission statement, right? So
shame everyone.
Our mission statement does not have the word shame in it, but it says to build a network of businesses committed to give back to conservation, right? So to build a network, we have to start finding those businesses who are committed.
Yeah.
And get them to talk about it and to say, this is why we're committed and this is why you should care as a consumer. And that's going to get incrementally, hopefully, that'll get consumers to care more too.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of consumers out there, a lot of regular hunters and fishermen, anglers that love to hunt and fish that don't really understand the value of conservation groups and what they do.
Hey, man, I'm the last to judge. I mean, it might come off like I am a little bit, but that's not it at all. I'm just making some jokes because 2 years ago, it just wasn't even on my mind.
Yeah,
I'm out hunting. I'm buying my gear. I'm going and doing my thing. And I'm taking for granted a lot of things, like public land's public and free, and it's mine. I'm taking that for granted. Like it's always going to be there. That hunting is kind of my right, and you can't take it from me. It's not endangered. A lot of the things that I just didn't think about. And there are many individuals and companies out there that have been working and sacrificing. I didn't know about it. Yeah. And now it's been brought to my awareness. Yeah, now it's like, oh, yeah, there is a need, and there is this important work to be done. Gosh, I care, and now that it's in my mind, it's on my mind, and I'm thinking about it. Now I can participate in it.
Yep.
So I think a part of it is it just brings this awareness to the top. I mean, if the whole industry is involved in, for example, 2%, it creates it. We're all unified in conservation, which that's something that we can all agree on.
Yep.
At the end of the day, as like hunting companies, and I think outdoor companies.
That's a good point, and that's one reason why working at Sitka, I was so pumped that the guys at First Light wanted to embrace 2% for conservation too, because personally, for
brands.
me. Yeah, I think it's perfectly healthy to have competition when we're selling products.
Yeah,
and that's what makes the world go round. But I think it's so important for us as an industry and consumers and humanity to understand that there's certain things that that are above that, right?
Right.
Like we compete selling gear, but we're on the same team when it comes to conservation causes, and we want to make an impact, and we understand we can make a bigger impact together than we can individually.
Yes.
So I was really pumped about that, and I think that's what the opportunity of building that network of businesses, what our mission statement means is each little company talking about conservation on their own is important, but if we all come together and talk about it as a whole, as an industry, with our consumers and all these different brands, competing brands, our voice is much louder, and that awareness can be much broader. And hopefully these young kids that are coming up to learn to hunt have more influence about conservation, understand what it means as they evolve as hunters and fishermen too.
Do you have back to another question people have asked was around individual certification. We've been talking about businesses here. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about individuals saying, hey, I want to be part of 2%.
Yeah, so our individual certification is really based on the same criteria as our business, so 1% of time and 1% of your income. But what it is to recognize and to create this network and awareness of people, the average hunter and angler, like you just said, that you used yourself as an example of the guy that goes above and beyond, right? You're a guy out hunting, not really aware of conservation. You buy your licenses and tags every year, so that helps a lot. But there are a lot of people that are doing way more than that are renewing their memberships every year for all these organizations, which is important for them to get their mission work funded, that are going out and volunteering on the weekends, doing work projects. So the philosophy of our individual certification is how do we recognize those people? How do we encourage more people to do that?
Yep.
Same shame tactic. Like, hey, I'm individually certified for 2%. That means I gave back 1% of my salary back to conservation causes, and I volunteered 21 hours of time. What did you do to your hunting buddy? He's like, I didn't do. I want to get certified too, right? So it's the same idea of building this network and getting that philosophy in people's minds of just getting more involved and being more, more on board with the whole.
I'm gonna read right off your website. Here's individual certification. That's one of the menu items here. I clicked on it, and here I am, and it says, are you a true conservationist? Are you just a hunter or an angler, or are you a true conservationist? Buying licenses, stamps, and tags to legally hunt or fish in America is an essential and necessary means to supporting wildlife conservation. However, you must do more to conserve fish, wildlife, and their habitat to ensure the future of hunting and fishing for future generations. You need to get involved. True conservationists go above and beyond. They dedicate their time and contribute their money to fish and wildlife. Do you volunteer at least 1% of your time to conservation? There's 2,080 work hours a year. That's about 21 hours of volunteer time. Do you contribute at least 1% of your money to conservation? A $50,000 a year annual income at 1% would be $500. So, i.e. $90 of annual membership to conservation group, $200 in raffle tickets at banquets, $150. This is just an example. $60 of silent auction items at banquets, whatever. Those are ways that you can tally up how you're contributing to conservation.
Yep.
And this is all at an individual level.
Yeah, and I mean, again, to be completely frank and honest, right? You make $50,000 a year, $500 is a lot of money, right? But that's that's truly what it takes. I mean, these conservation groups, they depend on you to renew your membership every year, right?
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. Shoot, man, I get membership renewals in the mail all the time and don't renew them, but that's important. They need that, right?
Yep.
They have fundraisers, the banquet fundraisers. We've all been to one where they're auctioning off items. They're selling those items so they can raise money for their mission work. So buying those items is important, right? So through all these different mechanisms, contributing 1% of your income, we believe is a true commitment. I mean, that's a lot of money. It's hard to do, and that's going above and beyond for conservation.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a it's a commitment. At the same time, though, there's some of this. A lot of us are already doing.
Right.
Put $50 here, $70 there, $30 here, and you tally it up, and you're like, wow, I'm actually doing 1%. All I'm doing now is actually saying I'm part of this group.
Yep.
Which I like because, again, it encourages others to be cognizant of it and go, yeah, because in some ways, Jeff, there are people out there giving that don't know they're giving.
Sure.
And the bad part about that is that when their non-hunting friend comes along or anti-hunting person comes along or whatever, they don't really know how the system works.
Yeah.
That they're actually, in some ways, contributing by being members of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Yeah. I hear, and I've done this too. I'm guilty of it as well. Complaining about the price of tags and license fees, right? That's important money to go back to conservation. It's different, and you can always make the argument that the state or the government's not spending it the right way or whatever. But regardless, buying your hunting licenses, your tags, your fishing licenses, your duck stamps, that's how we funded conservation in America forever. So catching yourself next time complaining about that, just think, I'll write that check and I'll be happy that I have this privilege, So it's I think that's one big part of it. Another part of it is, we don't charge anything to get individually certified. It's free. We're not trying to make money on that. It's not a membership like other organizations. It truly is about building this network and getting that philosophy more front of mind, like you mentioned, to people. So you get individually certified. We send you a free sticker. And the goal is hopefully that you put the sticker on something and somebody asks, what is that about? And it helps drive that message of conservation, starts getting that more front of mind. And it's funny, at Jordan at Mountain Ops, him and I were talking the other day and going through kind of all this different stuff, conservation challenges, random conversation that diverged to a whole bunch of random shit.
Right. That's how it is with Jordan.
But one of the things that came up was conservation's kind of gotten stagnant in this world. It's kind of boring, like, to be completely honest. And that's one of the struggles. And what the slogan that we came off of, we might have stole it from a Donald Trump sticker, was like, let's make conservation cool again.
Right.
And that's really what we want to do. I want people to be stoked to be volunteering and to be involved with conservation groups.
Dude, that's why we needed some cool 2% hats and T-shirts.
That's right. I know.
Speaking of which, you've got one on.
I do have a 2%
And it says, time plus money.
For Fish and Wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife, 2%.
Yeah. There you go. So hopefully we can make conservation cool again.
Absolutely.
And I think that'll impact all of us.
You mentioned, a little bit about dollars complaining about tag fees and stuff like that. One thing I get a lot of is just to go off topic here, because it's just a little rant. Montana wrote the book on screwing non-residents.
Yeah, they did.
Dude, what the heck, man?
It is really expensive to hunt here. That's no doubt.
It's like I feel like most states actually they really penalize.
I'm not, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying by write that check with a smile on your face that you can't be skeptical of why it costs so much or where that money goes to. Because I think as a resident of Montana, I think my elk tag's $20 or $30.
Yeah,
and yours is $600 or $700.
Yeah.
So I agree. It
just makes it a little harder for
the system's not perfect. It's the government we're talking about. So
yeah.
But that's what's so cool about working with nonprofits, and this is really why nonprofit conservation groups became to exist, because the government didn't have enough money to execute all the funding projects. Right.
Absolutely, but also I think that. So for example, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, or Sportsmen's Alliance. There's like these company. There's these with hunters having a not being unified. Their voice isn't loud enough to influence the decisions made at the federal level or state.
Right? Oh, totally. Yeah.
So when you fund these conservation groups or these groups that you want to be part of, like let's say Backcountry, BHA. I fund them. I give them money, time, and energy. When I do that, they in turn, all the hunters are unifying to then go at that federal level and say, hey, this is what I want to see done with these public lands. And then the lands end up getting used and managed in a way that I want to be part of. But when I go to the meeting by myself, and I'm one hunter, and I've got this whole army of, I don't know, coal miners or what. Nothing against coal miners, by the way. I'm just throwing out like a competing resource for the same land, right? Or let's just pick on the liberals who want to save the owls or something like that. Stop.
That's probably safer than coal miners.
Right. I love you, coal miners. Love you. No, I mean, you know what I mean, though. There's these groups that compete, and I hear hunters complain a lot about how lands are being used or how wildlife's being managed and so forth. But that's, I think, a big part of the role, like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and stuff. They get to be involved and have a voice for all these members that are part of that.
Yep.
You pay these annual fees and stuff, and you get involved.
Yep.
You volunteer your time there. There's power in a unified group. So it's almost like, you're just it's just win-win.
Yeah, no, totally. It's important. I mean, if without those conservation groups, all of them, right? Not singling out any of them. I mean, they all have their unique niches and mission work, but without what they do, we wouldn't have a unified voice or a voice for that niche, for that certain species, public land, or whatever it is. So you got to have that, but it's also so important to recognize that they literally pick up the conservation programs and the work where the funding dries up from the state and government level. Mm-hmm. There's only so much money that goes around, and I can only imagine all the bureaucratic bullshit that happens. I'm not a politician, nor do I ever want to be. But at the end of the day, there's not enough money coming in from the mechanisms that we currently have, licenses, tags, fees, all this other stuff, to fund all the conservation projects that the world needs. Right. So what happens after that? And that's the RMEFs, the PHAs, the Trout Unlimiteds, all those of the world are doing all that work and picking it up where they can't. So it's important from both those aspects to recognize the value. And we're not all ever going to agree with all the different stances that all the different conservation groups have, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, it's called democracy. It's
right?
called it's like
it's called life.
Yeah, it's life, right? Because people are gonna, on average, right? The companies I'm supporting and that I'm backing and that I am working with, I'm involved in, they're not always going to make the decision Brian Call wants them to make.
No.
But they're going to do their best to make the decision that the majority of their constituents are asking for. It's like, okay, 10% of you want this decision, 90% of you want this. I don't win everything.
Yep.
But it is nice to have these NGOs. Do you see that?
Yeah. Learn something every day.
Be funded because, like you said, like we all kind of know, when you get into when you get into government, period, it can get a little ineffective.
Sure.
And when you're dealing with some of these other organizations, they don't have as many.
Yeah, the hope is they are much more effective,
more agile, more able
and
to.
some more effective than others.
Which ones are the most effective? Which ones suck?
Dude, really? You're going to ask me that question? No. I will say,
don't answer that.
I will say, though, there are plenty of nonprofit rating associations out there. I think one's called Charity Navigator, one's called something else. Quite literally, their purpose in life is to tell you which nonprofits suck and which ones don't suck as much.
Yeah.
And they rank them based on how much of their money goes back to mission work versus
into their own pocket
or whatever else. So I would encourage, as you look at conservation groups, to get involved with and find out what you're passionate about, to do some research on that. I mean, you got to feel good about where your money's going. Yeah, that's one good thing about 2% for conservation is we're not trying to tell anybody, the businesses or individuals alike, where they should contribute their money.
Yep.
We have some high level criteria. It's really about pro hunting, pro fishing. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, we want you to give your money back and your time back to what you're passionate about. Some people freaking love elk hunting. Well, RMEF makes a lot of sense. Some people are super passionate about public land access. BHA makes a lot of sense. As 2%.
Goat Alliance. I heard
Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. Yeah, Pete and Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. You're a mountain goat hunter. They're freaking rad, man.
Yeah.
So, we want to promote this conservation ethic and let you as a business or an individual choose what fits your passion, and that's fine. We're not trying to tell you have to spend your money with Wild Sheep Foundation or the Elk Foundation.
Right. It's open. So, parting words. What do you have to say to folks out there? If you got one thing you can say to them, what do you want to say?
Oh, geez. One thing?
Well,
do I get one sentence, one paragraph?
You can kind of elaborate. I guess just I
hope that people start to ask more questions about conservation in general.
Yeah.
Where the money's going from businesses, what conservation groups are doing. Start to get educated so they can answer questions and have intelligent conversations with people that may not know much about how conservation for hunting and fishing is funded in America.
Yeah.
And generally just be more aware and involved and understand that this is important. And if that means encouraging businesses to get involved, or you personally getting involved, or generally just being able to intelligently talk about what conservation means, I think that's super important. That's going to be super important for our next generation of hunters and anglers, for us in the next 10 to 20 years with all the legislation that's coming down the pipe, just being aware of what's going on and educated. And
I think more than ever, our conservation agencies, the NGO, they really need backing and support more than ever, so we have a voice.
Yeah, and we need to be unified as a voice, right? And I think the NGOs are getting that. I think there was a time when hunting and fishing conservation groups were battling amongst themselves for political stances and funding and dollars, and I've seen that starting to turn where everybody understands that
we're all in this together.
We need to work together, because there truly are anti-hunting and fishing groups that want to stop hunting and fishing, and we need to be well aware of that.
So I got to get Gritty Bowmen on this list.
Yeah, we do. Let's. I got paperwork for you. So
cool.
This is a good segue. So how it works is you got to get certified. Our certification process is it's pretty much show us what your annual revenue is, show us who you contributed to. It's all on a non-disclosure. If CPAs, legal stuff involved, and it's a stamp of this business does contribute 1% of their sales back to conservation groups and gives back 21 hours on volunteer time, and then boom, you can be a member of 2%.
Boom.
So, yeah, I'd love to see the Gritty Bowmen on board.
Sweet. And for people that are wanting to get involved, they can go to fishandwildlife.org, and fish and wildlife is just all spelled out. And it looks like there's some cool hats here, dude.
Yeah, and we got a bunch of new hats and T-shirts.
Some stickers.
Again, another quote from Jordan Mountain Ops. He said, "You got to have a good swag game, man."
That's right. You got to make conservation cool again.
That's right. So yeah, hats, T-shirts, stickers.
Some of these are so Montana. I'm just saying, dude. It's like I saw a lot of like hippies on the mountain, like hippie hunters. You guys up here, you guys are a little. It's funny, like in Utah, it's like all flat brims. And
Utah,
like,
we do joke about it on here. Utah's the land of the flat brim.
That's
man,
right,
for sure.
And even like mullets and and
we get a lot of Montana hunters. We get a lot in the wintertime, obviously. The Elmer Fudd hat, with the flaps that fold up.
Oh yeah,
and the ball on the top.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I saw a lot of like flip-flops. I mean, those seem required. I see a lot of up here, a lot of bearded, like hippie beards. Yeah. Not like new wave beards,
Just hippie beards?
Hippie beards. You've got like a serious Western thing going on.
I'm glad you said that, because I get a lot of flack that it's a hipster mustache. And I'm like, it's supposed to be a Western mustache.
It is Western.
Are ruining it for me.
Hipster. Well, they might be moving in on your territory.
I walk into the office and everybody's like, "Where's your skinny jeans, dude?" Like, come on, man. It's like Doc Holliday, not hipster.
That's right. I saw a lot of plaid up there,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's a unique culture around here for sure. There's
very cool.
There's some hipster.
Very laid back.
Yeah, Bozeman's a cool town.
It is.
Laid back.
Yeah,
it's a good spot.
Bose Angeles.
You got to come back in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And do some snowboarding.
I used to snowboard a lot. In college, I took the snowboarding class.
Oh, nice.
It was a class at BYU, Idaho.
Do I dare ask for your degree?
It's actually Bricks College. I took the class every semester that it was available. So I audited it over and over,
Nice.
My wife and I would go up. This is before we were married. Go up there, and we would go to Grand Targhee on the bus. Go up there and ski like twice a week. It was a rough class. I got through it.
Sounds tough. I took backpacking in college too, and it was literally like you talk about some survival stuff, then go on one backpacking trip a year and you get 3 credits.
That's right.
This is sweet.
I snowboarded like crazy, and then fly fished in the fly fishing club. And yeah, I didn't get a lot of. I mean, I did okay in school.
Hopefully, you got A's in those classes.
Those classes, I nailed them.
Nice.
So, but yeah, the hats are out there, and people can check that out, and then they can reach out to you. The contact info's there. So, I want to encourage everybody that's listening to the podcast to get involved in conservation.
Yep, follow us on Facebook
Instagram.
and Instagram because we're going to do some giveaways and social promotions. Try to get some of our business members that are on board some promotions and product out there. So
Neat.
yeah, give us a follow.
That's neat. All right, Jeff. Thanks, man. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Stay gritty.
That's right.
Okay, Gritty friends, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word gritty at checkout. If you're a hardcore elk hunter, or you want to be, go to the Elk 101 website online and check them out. Our friend Corey Jacobson is killing it with some of the best elk hunting information and entertainment on the web. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.